Okay,
No,
let's be honest. Who hasn't been there, glued to the screen, watching the market, and feeling that little pang of FOMO? Like everyone else is cashing in on some secret strategy and we're stuck on the sidelines.
Oh, that fear of missing out is real. That feeling of, if only I had the inside scoop, it can really mess with your headspace.
For sure. And that's exactly why this deep dive is so timely. We're digging into this article called Becoming a Great Trader. And the best part is it throws out the whole get rich quick. It's about mastering the mental game, the psychology of trading.
Which is something anyone can learn, by the way. It's not some mystical gift.
I love that. So the article really hones in on these two key traits, patience and discipline. And before you tune us out thinking it's just another self-help lecture, I dare you to really consider how these traits actually play out when you're in the heat of a trade, when things are moving fast.
It's one thing to talk about patience, right? To say, yeah, patience is key. But then you see a stock going through the roof, or worse, tanking, and suddenly all logic flies out the window.
Ugh, tell me about it. It's like that moment you step into a casino. Suddenly you're not thinking straight. You're playing with emotion, not logic.
And that's where discipline comes in. The article makes this great analogy. It compares your trading plan to a constitution.
Ooh, I like that. So you're saying we can't just change the rules because we're feeling lucky that day?
Exactly. You wouldn't just jump into the ocean without knowing how to swim, would you?
Especially not if there are sharks circling.
Right. And the market can feel like a shark tank sometimes. But instead of living in fear of those sharks, what if you learned to read the currents, understood the tides, knew when and where it was safe to navigate those waters?
Okay, I'm hooked. So patience is about timing the market like a wave. But how do we actually learn to ride those waves without getting completely wiped out?
Well, that's where the article gets really practical.
Mm.
One of the first things it stresses is the importance of having super clear goals. What are you actually trying to achieve through your trading?
Because if you don't know where you're going, any road will do. And you're just more likely to get lost on the way.
Exactly. It's like wandering through a grocery store on an empty stomach versus going in with a well-thought-out list. One leads to impulse buys, the other to a plan.
Oh, man. Don't call me out like that. I always end up with a bag of chips I never even planned on buying.
We've all been there. But those impulse buys in trading, yeah, those can get expensive fast. Having those goals set, knowing exactly what you want to achieve and how much risk you're willing to stomach. It's like having that compass guiding all your decisions.
So we're talking about sticking to the plan, riding out the market waves, knowing where we want to go.
Right. And one of the most useful tools the article talks about for building that kind of discipline, the kind that actually gets you results, is journaling.
Okay, I'll be honest. I used to think trading journals were like, I don't know, something only those Wall Street hotshots used.
Oh.
Like in the movies.
Oh, totally. Leather-bound notebook, top secret formulas, all that jazz.
Exactly. But this article made it clear. It's not about looking cool. It's about cold, hard self-awareness, like really knowing yourself.
Precisely. Think of it like this. It's about uncovering those little tells you might have, those emotional patterns that trip you up and lead to bad decisions.
So it's like watching those game replays after a match. You see the moments you choked or got a little too confident, and you realize, man, I should have gone a different way with that.
Exactly. The article talked about how journaling can help you identify those specific emotional triggers that make you hit the buy or sell button impulsively.
So like, oh, every time my neighbor starts bragging about his Bitcoin profits, I panic and buy at the absolute worst possible time.
You nailed it. Journaling brings that kind of stuff to the surface. And it's not about beating yourself up for past mistakes either. It's about understanding those patterns so you can break the bad ones and, more importantly, start reinforcing the good ones.
Okay, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So journaling, that's for building the discipline to actually stick to the plan we made.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole other side of discipline the article dug into, which is risk management.
Yeah, and that's a big one. A lot of people, especially new traders, they get so caught up in the excitement, the thrill of potential wins, that they forget all about protecting themselves from the losses.
Well, because let's be real for a second. Risk management. It's not exactly the most thrilling topic, is it?
It doesn't have that same I'm going to be rich kind of appeal, but it's essential. Think of it like building a fence at the edge of a cliff. It's not flashy or exciting, but it could literally save you from disaster.
So if our trading plan is the Constitution, like we were talking about, would you say that risk management is kind of like the safety regulations that keep things from blowing up in our faces?
I love that. Yes, exactly. It's about setting those boundaries. Those stop loss orders that keep you from losing way more than you can handle on any single trade, because it can get emotional out there.
Especially when you're in the middle of it. Because FOMO, it cuts both ways, right?
Yeah.
The fear of missing out on the gains, that can be just as strong as the fear of losing everything.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where having that disciplined mindset is so crucial. It's about trusting the plan you made, even when every fiber of your being is telling you to jump ship or go all in.
You got to be the captain of your own ship, even when the seas get rough.
Oh, 100%. And you know what? That same idea, it applies to those winning streaks too. Those can be just as dangerous as losing streaks if you let them go to your head. You start making emotional decisions, and that's when things can really go sideways.
Oh, I bet. You start feeling invincible, like you've cracked the code of the entire market.
And then, bam, overconfidence leads to recklessness. The article talked about this, and let me tell you, I've learned this one the hard way
Oh,
myself.
spill it. Story time. Did you go all in on some meme stock based on a gut feeling? What happened?
Let's just say that early on in my trading journey, I had a string of wins, got a little ahead of myself, started thinking I was smarter than the market, started ignoring my own rules, took on way more risk than I should have.
Uh-oh, I have a feeling this doesn't end well.
It did not end well. Let's
Okay.
just put it that way. It's easy to get swept up in the moment, to start thinking you've got it all figured out. But the market has a way of hummeling even the most experienced traders.
So discipline isn't just about following the rules when you're losing. It's about staying grounded, even when you're on a hot streak. Remembering that nobody beats the market forever.
Exactly. It's about respecting the game, managing your risk, understanding that consistency over the long haul. That's where it's at. It's not about chasing those fleeting moments of brilliance.
It's all about playing the long game, isn't it? Not just trying to get rich. But the article mentioned Warren Buffett and Paul Tudor Jones as examples of traders who mastered these principles of patience and discipline. But those guys are practically legends. It can feel a little tough to relate to.
I get it. It's easy to think they were born with some kind of trading gene that the rest of us just don't have. But here's the thing. Both Buffett and Jones, they've talked about this, they attribute their success not to some kind of innate talent, but to consistently applying a set of principles.
So it's less about being born of Buffett and more about making Buffett-style choices day after day. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. They talk about doing your homework, really researching your trades, sticking to your risk management plan no matter what, and never, ever letting the hype of the market get to you. It's about trusting the process more than any gut feeling.
Which means we can all learn to trade like the greats, right? It's about building those mental skills, mastering the psychology of the game.
Precisely. And that's something anyone can work on, no matter how big or small your account is. It doesn't matter if you've been trading for 5 minutes or 5 years. It's about making that shift from chasing hot tips, trying to get rich quick, to building a sustainable approach to trading.
This has been eye-opening, honestly. Patience, discipline, journaling, to figure out those emotional blind spots. It's like we've unlocked the trading secrets nobody talks about.
I'd have to agree. And remember, it's not about becoming some kind of emotionless robot. That's not realistic. It's more about understanding how your emotions can mess with your decisions and then putting systems in place to help you stay the course, even when things get bumpy.
So less robot, more like having a solid plan that accounts for the fact that we're all human. We're all going to freak out a little when we see those numbers moving.
Exactly. Acknowledge those feelings, sure, but don't let them control your actions. Let logic lead the way.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up, I want to flip the script a little
Yeah.
and throw this question out to our listeners. Think about a time you let your emotions get the best of you during a trade. We've all been there. That time you bought high because you panicked or sold too early because you were scared. We've all done it.
It's all part of the learning process. We all make those mistakes. That's how we grow.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Now that you've been on this deep dive with us, armed with all this new knowledge about patience and discipline, how would you approach that situation differently now? What would a calmer, more patient, more disciplined version of you have done? Would a trading journal have shown you a pattern that could have helped you avoid that whole mess?
Those are the questions we should all be asking ourselves. Because sometimes the best lessons are the ones we learn from our own experiences, not just from reading about someone else's.
That's so true. And that's what this is all about. By asking ourselves the tough questions, analyzing our wins and losses, by really taking these principles of patience and discipline to heart, we can all start making trading decisions that lead to more consistent, long-term success.
I'm with you on that. Trading, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And just like with any marathon, it takes a lot of training, a solid strategy, and the mental toughness to just keep going one step at a time until you reach the finish line.
Now, that's a perfect analogy to end on. So to all our listeners out there, lace up those shoes, build your plan, and get ready to run your own race.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive. Happy trading, everyone.